Okay, for this part of the video, I'm going to show you some of the operations in Rhino, and I might have to break this up into parts because what I want to deal with is that I want to deal with bringing in your file. I want to deal with how you can break down the parts and put them onto layers properly, and then how you can clean up some common errors that you might find within your FlatFab file. So let's start by opening our file, and we're going to open up the DXF file right here. Now here we want to make sure that our units are and layout are in inches, since that's the way that we created our file. Now I'm going to maximize this window so that that becomes larger, and I want to zoom in here on one of these, and I want to do a test because that distance should be 0.06. So I'm going to do dimensions, linear dimensions, and I'm going to go from here, or 0.05, and that is 0.05. So now we know that our file is dimensionally correct. So that's very good, and that's what we wanted, okay? Now, I'm going to click on one of these parts, and you notice that each part is numbered. The slots are numbered to correspond to their component parts, which is a good thing. But you notice that when you click on them, you get a block instance. Okay, and if we look at our layers, we have just these 3 layers, but the object comes in as a block instance. That's the DXF's file's way of dealing with a group. So what we're going to need to do is that we're going to need to select all the objects, and we're going to have to explode them. Okay. And so now the 16 instances have been exploded into 76 objects. And you'll note that we have these exterior objects here, we have these interior objects here, and then we have these text objects there. Okay, and we have those broken up. So the next thing that we want to do is that we want to separate our components onto the constituent layers for laser cutting, and we're going to create 3 new layers. Okay, the first layer we're going to call outer cut, and we're going to paint that magenta. Okay, we're going to call this layer inner cut, and we're going to paint that layer blue. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to paint this layer right here. We're going to call that engrave. And that will get painted red. And we'll add another layer, and we'll call this one reference. And that's going to get painted cyan. Okay, and what we want to do at this point, we're going to select, and I want to do an edit, select objects by color, and it selects both of those. So that filter is not going to work. So what I want to do is that I want to select all of the outer edges. And I know it's a pain, but such is life, right? And these, after they're all selected, these will all go to, we're going to move these, and we're going to change the object layer to magenta. Okay, and you notice that the color stays red, right? But if I select the object, it still selects the object. Okay, now note that the dot next to us, which is sort of the display color, it's displaying as white. So let's go into properties, and we want to make sure that this is also set to magenta. You have to force this, the display color. Okay, and you do the print color by layer. And also the other thing that you want to do, you notice that this is a 0.5. That print width, we got to fix that. Okay, that's a problem. We want that to be by layer also. Okay, because when we send this to the laser cutter, if it's 0.5, the laser cutter won't see it. Okay, and if we really wanted to here, we could also make that magenta. That really forces it to be that color. So you notice that the color changed to magenta. Now, if you wanted to, you could, for right now, you could lock those down so that they don't move. And now I'm going to select all of these. And since I've locked the magenta, I can do this with sweeps to some extent, like that. And I want to get all of those. Select these. Select these. This is the work, as we say. And I guess I could have paused this while I did this, but it's important for you to see it. And you also get a conception of how much time it takes. And I'm going to change these all to the intercut layer. Right there. And I'm also going to go into my properties. Once again, I'm going to make that blue. I'm going to do this, make that blue, because this really forces it. And I'm going to take the print width, and I'm going to make the print width by layer. Okay, and I think I may have snagged a... I'll find the text object. So those are now all blue. Now the final step here, and that's a curve, good, is that I'm going to do an edit, select object, and I'm going to select the text, and it'll select all my text objects. Okay, that selects all my text objects. You'll note that all my text objects are selected. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to this layer, and I'm going to change the object layer to that red layer because I want those engraved. And one of the things that I'm going to do here, I'm going to go into my properties, and Myriad is a really bad font for laser cutting. If I exploded, some of my curves aren't going to be right. So I'm just going to change that to Arial in my text box here. I'm just going to change that to Arial. Okay, and that's much better. I'm going to change all of those to Arial, okay, and that's fine, but that's in your properties text. And now once I do that, now I can explode those, okay, and those all become curves. And you notice that 4s particularly can be problematic sometimes. On my computer, I have a single line font that I could use here, but this is all right. It's not too many fonts in this for you to work with. Now, the next step, let's go back to our layers again. And we want to look at our properties. And we're going to go look at our object properties. And you notice that that's painted blue. We want to change that to red. We want to come over here, change that to red. And we want to make sure that the print width is by layer. And now we have the color formatting complete. And actually I've got one here, there, and I've got to select that one and change that layer to blue. Okay. And I'm going to stop this here. That's kind of persistent. Let me see what's going on here. I'm going to change that object layer. And I'm going to go to my properties there. I've got to make that blue right there. Okay, good. Now that's better. Okay, and that's, now everything's properly formatted. The next step from here is going to be to regroup these and to do some cleanup. And I'm going to save another video for that so that we can go through that process, because this is hitting the limits of where I'd like for the videos to be.